Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling, and shall we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today, where you can tell by today's title we will be talking about Les Misérables. So this is, if you're wondering, this is not like a recreation of it, and it's also not a very I'm not like a particularly musically analytical person, or musical analytically person. It's not like a review or anything. I'm literally just a random person, I'm just here to play Animal Crossing and talk about things which have been happening in my life, And one of the things being, it was yesterday night. I went to see Les Misérables with my family, and it was amazing. What can I say? It was fantastic, and also it was actually quite different from what I expected. But anyway, good evening, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 7:49 p.m. on Thursday, December 21st, 2023. If somehow you don't know what Les Misérables is, often known as Les Mis, it's basically a musical by I don't know. Off the top of my head. Hold on. Name is Claude Michael Schomburg, which, you probably know. It's an incredibly famous musical, and one I have not actually seen, which might be crazy to you, because I do like musicals. I was going to say all performing arts, but there's probably one I don't like or something. Not one I can think of. I like dance, I like ballet, I like singing, like music and that sort of thing, and musicals, of course, I like as well. But Les Misérables, there's a lot of popular musicals I haven't seen, because I've seen a decent amount of musicals, but I have not seen like a lot of the popular ones. Like I haven't seen Les Misérables, I haven't seen Cats, I haven't seen Sound of Music. I think I've seen the movie Sound of Music, but I haven't seen the actual theatre production. I don't know, there was a lot of big ones out there which I probably haven't seen, but I'm slowly trying to sort of rectify that now. But yeah, Les Misérables is interesting because what's most interesting is I knew a decent amount of songs from Les Misérables, and I had like a preconception in my head of what Les Misérables was about. I was like, oh, it takes place during the French Revolution, something like that. And then the combination of what I thought I knew about Les Misérables plus my preconceived notions of it made it very interesting when I was watching it, because it's actually like far more different than I thought. I'll tell you now, like it would have been better if I like recorded a video before and after. I thought Les Misérables was about, a story entirely within the wartime of the French Revolution, the actual conflict itself, and we follow both sides, like soldiers on either side, trying to see their point of view or something, and then it focuses on a young girl, this child who's caught in the middle of it, and it's meant to be like this the civilian life during conflict like this, or something something like that. It turns out it's not really. Obviously, the French Revolution plays a part, but if anything, the French Revolution's kind of like a side story to the actual main plot. Is more like a story about questioning the concept of redemption, is probably how I'd summarize it. I don't know if that's of course everyone's going to have their own different ideas of what the major themes are during Les Misérables, but to me it's more about the major themes are about sacrifice and redemption. I'm just trying to think what to deposit here. Sorry, apparently I can't multitask while doing that. Because it follows spoilers for Les Misérables, I suppose, if you haven't seen it. But it's 40 years old now, I think. So if you're gonna see it by now, you probably would have. It follows basically a guy who was, I'll try and summarize it best I can. I did get a little bit confused about who some of the characters were, later on. But it's a guy who stole a loaf of bread in his, I don't know actually how old he was. I guessed he was in his 20s or something. Actually, that doesn't make sense. I guess he probably was stole it in his 20s, and then it was in his 40s. He stole a loaf of bread from a house to feed his nephew, essentially, and then he got arrested, and then he was treated as a slave for 19 years, essentially. And then it's a story about him getting out. It starts with him getting out, being released, I suppose, from being a prisoner, and his difficulties with trying to reintegrate into society, because everyone sees him. Yes, you are a prisoner. You once a sinner, always a sinner, that sort of thing. And then it shows him being taken in by this bishop who treats him to a nice meal, and then he sins by I don't know why I'm using the word sins, but he steals from the bishop. He steals the silver, and then he gets caught again, but the bishop comes to save him by being no, these were actually presents I gave to him. And then the bishop just says, hey, the price of this is like on you to be able to change yourself, I suppose, to be able to redeem yourself. That's when your challenge lies. And then this thief, it goes like, whoa, like despite the fact he was nothing but kind to me and I just betrayed him, he still was kind to me afterwards. And then he goes on with like his path of redemption. Then it randomly like jumps to this woman who's working in a factory, and she's trying to like she's working this job trying to support like her sickly child or whatever. And honestly, this is a part where I was like, what is going on? I got like a quick rundown of what the plot was kind of like before watching, and I would have probably been even more confused if I didn't get that quick plot rundown. But it basically follows this mother, and then I don't really get it. Maybe this is more of a product of its time, and if anything, it's kind of like showing how the world has changed a little bit to it. But it was just like, oh, she's trying to support her child, and then everyone is like, you insert demeaning word here, woman. Like, you person who sleeps around, you can insert the words there, and they like beat her up or something in the factory. And honestly, I was sitting there being like, what? I'm not sure if I missed like a cultural concept or something here, which is like, yeah, okay, like I can see it, but it feels, I mean, I think Les Mis was like in 1980s or something, so probably the attitude towards these sort of things are different. But it's like, is it that outrageous that like a mother would be working to support her family? Like, I'm not sure if I just misunderstood what was going on in the scene. I mean, I've got Wikipedia open. Maybe we could see the synopsis. Breaking his parole. Oh yeah, he was on parole. Let's see. Trying to support single mother working in his factory, trying to support Cosette. The factory foreman lusts of a Fantine. Oh yeah, she rejects his advances, and he takes out other workers who resent her for it. Okay, so that's why. It's not purely just because she's like a single mother working or something. She's a child, a fight breaks out, and then she gets fired. And then she's like, oh no. Like, actually, there's a lot which happened to us. Okay, she's like, oh no, but then the thief comes along to basically sort of rescue her. She dies. The thief now looks after Cosette while he's constantly on the run from the police officer who's like trying to recapture him again. And then loads of stuff happens where he just basically does the right thing every single time when it comes to the end. And it's all like, oh, he's been redeemed, essentially. I don't know. You can read a synopsis if you want of Les Misérables. But it was interesting. It was actually quite a heartfelt. It was an interesting heartfelt musical, more about like morality and like good people doing bad things, bad people doing good things, and that sort of thing. Like what defines good and bad and morality, etc., etc. It's I suppose easy to define it. Of see someone do something, yes, that's good, yes, that's bad. But can you really like unilaterally say you are a good person, you are a bad person, based on who you are now, based on who you were before, etc., etc. And then there's a story of like love. Like first sight, which seems like a classic thing, and like there's big things about sacrifice, and yeah, and then but it was interesting to me because I was like, I thought it would be like a really, I mean it is kind of like a dark musical, but I thought it'd be like a really dark, gritty, like Saving Private Ryan sort of musical, and that's what all the songs are about. And it was interesting like hearing the songs which I recognise, like I not I Dreamed a Dream, that's an ABBA song. I dreamed a dream of days gone by, that song. Maybe it's called I Dreamed a Dream, I don't know. Maybe ABBA just has a song of the same name. And like me trying to think of like what the context was behind it. Like another one was the Castle on a Cloud. Like I there is a castle on a cloud. I like to go there in my sleep. I thought that was a song about a girl in an orphanage singing it, and that was her like looking out the window being like, oh, like Matilda. No, Matilda's not an orphan. Annie-esque, just being like, oh, this sucks. So I don't want to be an orphan anymore. I want to be adopted, but this wartime makes it like so difficult. It's not. It's actually just like the daughter. She sings. It's really short as well, but it does become a recurring motif, I think, throughout the musical. She sings it while she's in care of like her. Like this random innkeeper. I will also say this random innkeeper has a really big part of the plot, despite the fact he seems like he's meant to be like a comic relief. I mean, he is a comic relief sort of character. Like when he started singing his song like Master of a House or whatever it is, and I was like, oh, this is like that jokey song but there's a really good skit by someone where it's just like, oh, this is a song which the old guy always sings in the musicals, which no one really cares about, and that sort of thing. But he has like a really important like role in the entire musical. I didn't actually think about it, like what thematically he represents, maybe like a greed or something, or it's your own self-interest, I suppose, rather than like to contrast against whatever the main character's name is, selflessness, Valjean. Yeah, what other songs? Also the song, one day more, one more day till revolution, we will nip it in the bud. That song, I thought that was the grand like climax song. I thought that was like the one which is like the finale, and you know, because it was about Les Mis, it was like the final day of a revolution or something, and then this is like being like, yeah, we're gonna finally stop it, and or like, no, all these like things which we got to resolve, you know, etc, etc. Turns out it's the Act 1 finisher, which I guess makes more sense now I think about it more, because they're like, oh, the revolution hasn't like quite come yet, I suppose, so it's still like an ongoing thing rather than something which should finish it off. But it's such like a dramatic song that I'm like, it had to be, in my mind I was like, this has to be the finale song, but it's not. What other songs did I recognize? I'm trying to think. I also thought One Day More was the same song as Empty Chairs at Empty Tables. I thought that was the same, like a different part of the same song. It's not. It's a completely different song with a completely different context and meaning behind it. Which, you know, was it was wild to me to find these out, because it's as I said, like when I watched Star Wars for the first time, I had so many preconceived notions about what the story was, but I didn't even realize it. Like all the things I sort of like learned by osmosis through like random things I hear about it, and like the songs, you know, I like listen to, etc, etc. From it, like I built up this preconceived notion about what Les Miserables was about, and then it just like was not exactly right. Like there were some things obviously that I felt like I got reasonably close to. But yeah, I haven't actually really spoken about Les Miserables itself, rather than it as a concept and like the dynamic of my own understanding of Les Miserables. It's a really good musical. Like what can I say? It's dramatic. It's heartfelt. Like every scene feels like so like fully raw and full of passion. I will say, it was a lot more comedic than I expected, which I'm not sure if that's necessarily a bad thing, especially for most people, but I tend to like my more sentimental, emotional things more than I like a comedy. So, you know, drama versus comedy, I would pick a drama. So it's like, I did find the Master of the House, I can't remember his name, amusingly funny. But they weren't like my favourite moments or anything like that. What's my favourite song? That's a good question. I think One Day More is just so good that it's hard not to. Empty Chairs at Empty Tables was also really good. What other good songs are there? Look down. That's quite a good one. What is the other young woman? Eponine also had a good song. I don't remember what it was called though. It's harder for me to recollect because I'm like, I don't know what the song is. Oh, Do You Hear the People Sing? That's a pretty good one. On My Own, that one. That one was a really good one, I thought. Oh, Javert was also a really interesting character. I also did not realise that was his name. I just knew him as police officer this entire time. And, you know, I will say when I was watching it, like at a moment, I was like, I can't believe how persistent this police officer is at catching this one guy who stopped like a loaf of bread. And I was like, I guess he did like also like break his parole and that sort of thing. And then I thought about it more and I was like, okay, yeah, well, now I think about it even more. This guy is not really representing like a believable character. Like, I mean, piggybacking off a conversation we had yesterday or the day before about realistic characters. This the character of Javert is meant to, at least in my mind, be representing the theme of like the ideal of law, of justice, you know, a blind justice where it cares not for what you have, what you do now. It's more about what you've done. You know, you still need to pay retribution for that sort of thing. Like you can't. It's not like you can redeem yourself from your karmic depths per se. You still had to repent for them, or be punished, or you know, be punished for them, and you know. Does a good deed offset a bad deed? And it's like, no, not necessarily. And then his death, I suppose, contributing to being like, oh, the death of that idea. At least that's how I interpreted it. I might have interpreted it like completely, well, I'm not going to say completely wrong, because I suppose that's a very subjective thing, but that might not be the most common interpretation of it, is what I should say. It was just like dramatic. It's another one of those, what's the term, like sung through movies or something. I mean, I saw it earlier on Wikipedia. Yeah, sung through musical where it's just like singing all the way through, which must be exhausting. I can't even imagine doing a musical like that. The voices for people who were singing were just fantastic, and I don't really know what else to say, to be perfectly honest. Because I know myself, I tend to prefer the much more sort of modern stylings and aesthetics compared to much more traditional ones, which Les Misérables and things. But that doesn't mean I don't like it, you know. Would I, you know, no, if you asked me beforehand, do you think you would like more, Hamilton or Les Misérables? They're both, you know, they've both got similar sort of subject matter. I think. Well, I guess Les Mis is. When was the French Revolution? I don't know. My guess would be 1600s, but I'm not sure if that's right. 1815. Okay, I was way off. And when was US founded? US founded. Okay, when did the founding fathers? 70s. Okay, so they're both roughly the same sort of era. If you asked me beforehand, which one do you think I would have enjoyed more, Hamilton or Les Mis? I would probably have been like, possibly Hamilton, because it's like a much more of a modern spin, and I know my own sensibilities tend to lean to the modern more than Les Mis. But now I'm like, it's really quite close. It's so good, is what I can say. Like, I mean, there's a good reason that it's such a well-renowned, I suppose, musical. And one of my friends is probably going to be so happy that I've finally seen it, because she's been telling me to watch it almost like since I first met her or something, and she found out I like musicals. She was like, I can't believe you haven't seen Les Mis. And I was like, there's actually a lot of musicals I haven't seen, but yeah, Les Mis is a big one. It's fantastic. Well, what can I say? If you like I suppose if you hate, even if you don't like musicals, okay, maybe if you don't like musicals, then don't watch it. But if you're like apprehensive about musicals, like I like some, I don't like others, you'll probably, I think there's a good chance you'll like Les Mis. It's very, very good. I don't know. I guess it's just because the emotion for it, the drama for it is like, what's the word? Effective, piercing. Poignant. Poignant's not a word. But it feels like passionately there. You know, it feels strong. I feel the emotion in every song. I'm still not. I'm not. I need to like listen to the soundtrack. I need to listen to Les Mis. I need to listen to the Hamilton soundtrack again, because like these are the sort of things where like I would commit these songs to memory. I would say it's probably the sort of case where there's so many songs it makes it difficult for me to, you know, commit it to memory. Like listening to 100 songs on a repeat playlist makes it rather difficult to learn all the lyrics and that sort of thing. But and I think with musicals which are sung through, where like all the story elements are also incorporated in the songs as well, I think it's better watched rather than necessarily listening to the soundtrack. I feel like it's better to listen to like the key songs in the soundtrack, you know, your One Day More, your Do You Hear the People Sing, your other things, because but there are some songs which are just sort of like they're like narrative songs rather than like songs which I would listen to on a playlist. It's how I feel about that sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's like a really good musical. What was my favourite part of it? That's a good question. I'm not sure. I don't know. I just like Eponine's parts in it. I suppose that maybe those are like some of the rawest feelings. I'm trying to read this. Empty chairs and empty tables. Oh yeah, it's also quite a sad musical because the revolution like fails in the end, which is cray. I don't actually know what happens in the actual French Revolution. I don't know the history of it. At the end of the day, okay, I'm looking at the song list. Who Am I? Fantine's Death, Confrontation, Castle on a Cloud. There is a castle on a cloud. I like to go there in my sleep. Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's good. It's good. I don't know, this wasn't a very comprehensive review of Les Mis, I'm going to be honest. Mainly because I haven't actually listened to the songs again since, so I need to actually like listen to them again to like sort of let it sink in more, I suppose. But I enjoyed it. Anyway, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Social Discord down below. Hope to see you show again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye bye for now.